So successful were the mammoth hunters who lived there that the site has long been famous for an abundance of mammoth bones and teeth. As early as the 18th century, they interested Peter the Great enough to make him order an investigation. Now, this region is still an administrative center in Western Russia's Soviet Federated Socialist Republic. Now, Ainu tribes are descendants of Dravidian female slaves and Neanderthal Mongoloid nomadic armies. I have this one poor little picture. This was the best I could find. These are Ainu tribes. They still live. They still have the same traditions. For some reason, they have a woman has a tattoo across her upper lip, and they think these people were getting married, but they still live in Japan. There are very few of them. Now, Ainu are short and thick-set, with white to pale brown skin coloring. They have wavy or curly hair which grows heavily on both the face and body. The brow ridges are strongly developed, though much less massive than they often are among the Australians. But the nose is straight. There seems no doubt at all that these earliest inhabitants of Japan have kinship with ancient stocks, still genetically represented in modern Europeans. Now, the traditional Ainu were round-eyed, short-statured, and brunette, and had abundant body and facial hair compared to their Mongoloid neighbors. The men wore heavy beards, and the women had mustache-like tattooing around the mouth. They dressed in bark clothes or skin drapes, often decorated with geometric designs. The traditional religion of the Ainu centered on local forces of nature, which were thought to have souls or spirits. The most important rituals in the Ainu religion involved the sacrifice of a bear. Anyway, Ainu tribes spread widely over northern Asia, into the Ordos region of China, into Japan, and on to Mute. Okay, now the Neanderthal Java Australoid Shaman priesthood migrated to Australia around 24,000 years ago and became the second group of Australian Aborigines, the Gippsland Australians. These desert dwellers were hunters, brown-skinned, tall and slender. I don't have a picture of them, with wavy hair and beards, but little body hair. In the formation of their skulls, they seem to show a very archaic inheritance, with a larger genetic element from Java tribes than any other living people. This element seems to have been more marked in the past, to judge from certain skull finds. Now, the reason they migrated is because they had created another upheaval. They were supposed to be the teachers or the leaders, and they had destroyed more of Atlantis. Now, the last major glaciation entered its most severe phase around 22,000 years ago. The Scandinavian ice sheet spread, forming extensive continental glaciers in northern Asia, Bremen, and Europe. Alpine glaciers spread 3,280 to 2,625 feet down the mountain slopes between 22 and 18,000 years ago. The cold was so severe that cave bears, the totem of worm Neanderthals, passed into extinction, freezing to death during hibernation. Now, sea levels dropped as more and more water became trapped in glacier formation. Now, they say when the totem dies, the category dies. So worm Neanderthals, these cave bears died between 22 and 18,000 years ago. So now the worm Neanderthals are born shortly afterwards. Okay, the margin of the Laurentian ice sheet in North America lay across southern Ohio, central Indiana, and central Illinois. Now, circulating deep ocean currents from the Oblate region carried warmth into what are now the Great Lakes and Mississippi River region. Streams of melting water flowed toward the south. Now, the water cut deep channels, compartmentalizing the ice and creating valleys, chasms, and mazes. Cloudy weather was common in ice fields of the Western Hemisphere, with much rain and snow. In the narrow zone close to the glacier, intense frost activity occurred, and the vegetation consisted of tundra-like grassland with scattered clumps of spruce trees. And towards the south, the vegetation rapidly merged into forests with spruce, birch, alder, and tamarack. Woolly mammoth, caribou, and small Arctic rodents lived on tundra zones close to the ice sheet, while mastodons, ground sloth, moose, horse, bison, snowshoe hares, and other small mammals lived in the forest to the south. And all of this made North America of 22,000 years ago a hunter's paradise. Now, a tribe called Solutreans settled at Parpella Cave, Spain, around 22,000 years ago, and lived among the Cro-Magnon Neanderthals from Aryan Atlantis. Now, many people say that the two groups were related. Now, most historians think that Solutreans came from Hungary and Bulgaria, where the most primitive of their tools and weapons were plentiful. Now, some anthropologists state the possibility exists that the immediate ancestors of Solutreans were worm Neanderthals, who lived past their time in a kind of lost world environment. Solutreans established extensive open-air sites in central France, and native populations of southern France were enslaved to manufacture stone tools. High-quality types of flint and other raw materials were brought to caves and rock shelters of France and Spain from Holy Cross Mountains of southern Poland and western Czechoslovakia, so they were shipping in these materials. And the anthropologists state that French slaves developed an extraordinary mastery of pressure flaking and produced many laurel leaf-shaped arrowheads in different sizes. And pressure flaking, I mean, that's really, it's a masterpiece, really. That's beautifully chipped or flaked. But at any rate, that's from the Solutrean period. Now, pressure flaking demands the best materials and can hardly be practiced except on flint and obsidian or fine-grained chert. That's why they were shipping it in from the Holy Cross Mountains. Now, the Solutrean period produced laurel leaf and willow leaf knives that are today valued as works of art. Now, Solutreans had so many tools that there may have been special workshops organized for a flourishing export trade. They had the caves and the slaves. In a single camping place, the Solutreans left 35,000 tools of flint. Now, Ainu traders began developing Mu by building industrial communities and trade centers. In 1994, Professor Masaki Komura, a marine seismologist at a university in Okinawa, began studying a terrace structure lying at depths of up to 98 feet off the south coast of the Japanese island of Yonagura. The structure was hewn out of solid bedrock when the site was still above water. What it looks like is a big trade center, but it's still underwater, so nobody really knows. Now, but it looks like it. Now, around 20,000 years ago, hunters followed an ice-free land route that extended from Siberia into North America along the Arctic coast to the Mackenzie River in Canada's Northwest Territories. Now, Solutrean-type arrowheads and points have been found in California, New Mexico, the Mississippi Valley, and along the eastern seaboard. Now, not long ago, this Eduardo Perello of Barcelona University dug in a cave in the mountains of southeast Spain, and he found an assortment of arrowheads that resembled those found by the thousands at American Indian sites. And he wrote, indeed, if these same points had been uncovered at one of these sites, they would have been identified without question as arrowheads. And he's found other points have been found in Spanish caves, and they provide the earliest indirect evidence for the invention of the bow and arrow. Now, Neanderthals, Cro-Magnon Neanderthals of Aryan Atlantis, Ainu traders of Mu, and Solutreans were all allied. All mountain tribes were allied. Casey, Seth, and Plato state that the kingdom of Aryan Atlantis far surpassed Rome in grandeur. Plato said, beyond the three outer harbors there was a wall. This wall was densely built up all around with houses, and the canal and large harbor were crowded with vast number of merchant ships from all quarters. From them arose a constant din of shouting and noise, day and night. Stop.